Well, hello, all you Rainbow Warriors, and welcome to Wednesday. So, start out with who else is being affected by all this smoke? Looks like Mars out there. It's just hazy everywhere. We don't have a fire close to us, but the winds just carry that smoke around. We've been engulfed in smoke for 2 days now. So, anyways, hello and welcome to Wednesday. We're getting ready to do some tie-dye today. Thank you all for joining me. Looks like we have 13 people watching right now, and I'm sure that's going to fill up some more. So let's, first off, I wanted to say thank you. I seen we had a couple new members. So Brett signed up first thing this morning. Thank you, Brett, for joining. And Maxine, my mom, signed up to be an ultimate Mr. Tie-Dye fan. So thank you, Mom, and everybody that's logging in here. So it's already doubled. We're up at 29 people now. So thank you. We're going to get started here, but also I wanted to do my usual thank yous of showing of gratitude. So let's see. In the last week we had 2 new members sign up besides the ones I just mentioned. So welcome Cindy and Karen. And then I had some super chats from last week. Debbie, Uniquely Yours, and Jeanette. So thank you for those. And then I had one donation through PayPal from Dawn. So very much appreciated. Much gratitude to you all. It helps me keep on making these videos. So let's see here. Last week, or maybe it was the week before, sometimes somebody asked me about a 7-point mandala. And I have done a 7-pointed star in the past. So I decided when I sat down in meditation, and that was the first thing that came to me, I decided let's go ahead and just do the 7-point star. And then of course the mandala, you can, once you get it folded up for the 7 points, then you could fold it into a mandala or whatever. But I'm just going to do a 7-pointed star, and it's going to look similar to this one. Let me post here in the chat box. So that is the 7-pointed star that I had done, I think, last year, the year before. So anyway, I'm going to do another one similar to that. So what I have here is a tapestry that's been soaked in soda ash. It's been spun out, so it's just barely damp right now. That's my, excuse me, that's my preferred method for folding and dyeing. Although for the 7-point mandala, since we're going to have so many layers, I went ahead and folded one up yesterday and let it sit out to dry so that I'm not trying to dye a 7-layer tapestry here, or actually it's 14 layers because it's folded in half right now. So anyways, I already have another one of those folded up and it's dry, but I'm going to show you how I did the 7-point star on here. So I folded this in half and then in quarters to find the exact center, because I'm going to put the star in the middle of the tapestry. And then also from there I'm going to do all of my lines here. So I got them measured out, so when you're wanting to figure out your points for stars, basically you're going to take however many points and divide that into 180. Because 180 is the degrees in half of a circle. So, and since the tapestry is already folded in half, that's what we're going for. So I have my numbers here, and I'm going to put this back up later, but these here are where we're going to be drawing our lines at, and I'll say them out loud too, but I wanted to show them on screen just in case. There we go. Okay, so the first one, so basically when I divided 180 into 7 parts, the first number I came up with was 25.7. And then you just add that, keep adding it on there, and you just keep moving around. Every 25.7 degrees, you're adding it up. So we're going to start out with those measurements there. So I'm just going to line my protractor up here on the center line that I marked. And I know these are kind of exacting numbers here, 25.7. Really, what I'm doing, if it's a 25.7, I'm going close to 26. And 51.4, I'm going about 51.5 degrees. So that's just to get us into the folding. We're not going to try to get a completely exact measurements. So I put the point on there just so you know which way to round it off at. So we're going to start at 25.7. So I'm just going to go around here and just make all of these marks. The next one's at 51.4. 77.1. 102.8. 128.5. Bless you. See, I lost 128. 8.5. And 154.2. Okay, so there's my marks here, and now what I'm going to do is extend them out. So I just use the straight edge here, and I got a small space, so I have to kind of slide this over to get everything in here. Okay, let's see if we can get that. So all of my points are all going to meet up here at this center line that I drew initially. And these are going to then become our fold lines for the 7-pointed star. That marker is getting a little bit light, so let's switch over. We're going to do green. The only reason I'm changing is just because these lines are just getting lighter and lighter, but they all could be the same color. One more line. Okay, so there's our 6 lines that we're going to fold on, which creates our 7 spaces here. And that's going to, since it's folded in half, then those spaces are going to multiply out and become points of the star. So basically what I'm going to do is just start folding this up, kind of pleat style. But basically I'm taking this outer edge here and I'm folding along this line, but I'm lining this edge up over here. So this here is going to be where it's actually folded at. So, and I just hold in place here at the center and just line that up right on that line. And then I kind of run my hand down just to make sure that I don't have any extra creases in here, because it's, if you get too many creases in there, it's going to change the shape of your star and kind of just make it a little bit thicker to fold. So just make sure you have no lines. If you do have creases and stuff in there, you can take your yardstick, and basically I stick my yardstick in until I can feel my point right there, and then I hold the tapestry down and I just kind of run this yardstick, pushing this point into that crease all the way along there. And that usually will take any creases, any folds you have in there out. So that's just a quick, easy way, rather than trying to unfold it, lay it flat, and fold it back up again. Is just leave it folded, slide your yardstick. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch this fold here that I just did and hold the middle, and I'm going to pick this up and flip this underneath. Basically line this edge up right there, folding along here. if you do that kind of quickly, most times you can get everything to just lay right in place. I don't feel any creases, so now we're going to take this edge here, we're going to fold along this line, and we're going to line this edge up over here. So I'm just making sure that I have both creases. You should have 2 creases here at this point, and then once again holding this center line and just flop that over. Come on. Okay. Now we're going to do that same thing again. We're going to pick this up, and since I have right at the edge of the tapestry, it's easy enough for me to hold those in place, hold this center, and I'm going to flop this under. So we're going to fold along this line, basically lining this edge up right there with that line. And then you just kind of straighten things around until everything is laying nice and flat again. And like I say, I don't have my line exactly lined up here, but basically if you get it pretty close, then you should be good. Like I say, this here is also a time to open up, make sure that you don't have any extra creases any place up there. So now we're going to fold along this line. I'm going to basically take this edge and line it up right there. And now this last fold, I'm going to pick this up and just flop this underneath here. It's going to be on the top. Okay, and I can feel some creases in that fold there, so I'm going to take my yardstick slide it in there. But once you get to this point here, then it's just a matter of picking everything up, making sure that all of your folds are lined up. Like I say, I'm not completely perfect on all of these. They might be off by a couple millimeters there, but I'd say overall we got some nice points there, or nice folds. And that's what's going to give us our 7-pointed star now. So now we're going to flop this around. This here is the center of the tapestry, and then this here is the outer edge out here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold this one up pretty close to the same way. This is the one that I folded up yesterday. So this here is the 7-pointed star. This here is an extra little jog that I put on the other side, and then this here is a little ball shape I put right above the star. So I'm going to do this one here in the same way. So I just did a little fold right here. And then we're going to draw this out. Let's see. I think I went at 20 degrees on that one. So what I'm going to do is just come down just a couple inches from where I have my circle drawn here. Put a little mark, and this degrees is just going to determine how steep your points are, whether you have a shallow one or you have a very steep one, or you could even go more obtuse on there. But whatever this angle is going to determine how sharp your point is. So if I'm measuring mine out at 20 degrees, this here is folded in half, so it's going to be double that, so it's going to be a 40-degree angle, which I kind of like. So if I show you a 40-degree angle, this here is how point from this point up is going to be the shape of my points out here. So that's kind of what I'm going for. So I'm going to draw a line on here at 20 degrees. But you could just kind of freehand and pick whatever angle you like on there. I'm just going to do this one close to this other tapestry right here. So I'm going to put a mark at 20 degrees, and then I'm going to draw this line all the way across. Okay, so here's my fold line for my points. Then I'm going to have an orb above that, and then on this side I just had kind of a long extra little point on there. So it just kind of gives a little more pizzazz. You could add more things in here if you wanted to. One of the ways that you can do it, it's hard to fold anything of detail when you have this many layers, but you could fold something on this layer, fold something on this layer. So you could take each one of these layers and fold something on them. If you wanted to put like a little heart or something on there, you could extend that out, but that's the way that you would do that. I'm just going to fold these all together into one big long orb like this here, and then this here is an oblong orb and a round orb here. So that's what we're doing, but there's lots of possibilities. So I encourage you guys to kind of explore with your own creativity on the star. If you wanted to do this as a Ron star design, this would be the point where you would start folding this here up and tying it off. You could also fold this as a lotus mandala and just go zigzag. So this, once you get the 7 points down, the fold for it, which is really just the angles here. In fact, let's leave this angles up in case somebody needed those. There, how about almost. There we go. See, I live in the future, so I have to wait for the past to catch up. So anyways, so once you have those points down, then you can do anything with this. I just happen to want to make another one of those stars. I think the last time I made it, it was really popular. So I decided I wanted to make another one of those up. So basically what I'm going to do is just pleat this. So I'm going to turn this around. And I'm just going to form pleats on here. And these ones, you have to do them just a little bit tall just because of the number of layers here. If you do them too shallow, then when you tie it up, it could buckle on you and you'll have to refold the pleats on there. Okay, well, let's just set that back there. I think you guys got the points. I'll put those down in the description also, so you guys can see what those measurements are. Okay. So now at this point, I'm going to tie this with kite string, because that's how I did the other one here. But you could just as easily tie this with sinew. And because of so many layers, I let this one sit out to dry yesterday. So that's the one that we're actually going to dye. With all the layers, I don't want to take a chance on not getting good saturation on this. But like I say, you could go ahead and tie this up with sinew at this point if you wanted to. I might have to do one of these up. I've had the vision of doing it as a ice dye, so that'll be one that I will explore. But this one here, we're going to use liquid dyes on. And sorry I'm not too involved in the chat today, just trying to keep focused on what I'm doing here so I don't get off track. And I think I did see some mention earlier about my tooth. I have an appointment tomorrow to get it actually pulled out, so I've just been kind of medicating all week. I haven't been getting in and doing much tie-dye. Just sometimes hard to get in the mood when your tooth aches, but it's feeling okay right now. I think I took some Advil and stuff before my show, and that's working well. But I'll be glad to have the tooth out tomorrow. Okay, so now I'm tying this orb up over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to tie it up with some kite string. Oh, and I will have my Q&A session later. So if people are asking questions that they need something from me, an answer from me, then Julie will be taking those questions later. I ask that when you do start asking questions for me, for Julie to write down, if you put them in all caps, it makes it easier for her to find them and to know that you're asking it of me. I know in the chat room, a lot of times all you Rainbow Warriors will help each other out by answering questions, and that is just so appreciated. I love seeing that. So keep on doing that, but if you do want to ask me a direct question, then you can put that in all caps, and Julie will write that down and bring it to me at the appropriate time. Probably once I start adding dye to this, I'll be able to focus a little bit more on the questions. But right now, I just want to make sure that I get this folded up correctly. Alrighty. And once again, I'm using kite string for this, but you could certainly use rubber bands, or you could use sinew, or whatever you like. The main thing I recommend, though, is to let it dry before you start adding dye to it. Just because the number of layers that you're working with to get good saturation, I find that that really helps, because the dye wants to, or just the liquid in general, wants to creep from the dry areas of the fabric into, or from the wet areas of the fabric into the dry areas. So if you have it dry in the middle, then that dye wants to creep in. But if you have soda ash in the middle there, then it can kind of almost get trapped in there. If you dye from the top and dye from the bottom, then there might be a little layer of soda ash in the middle, and the dye just can't get to it. So that's why I like to let them sit out and dry. Okay, then the next thing here, it looks like part of my point came undone here. So I think I'm going to retie that just to make sure I don't have a problem with that later. I just didn't get enough of that point caught into my kite string here. So I'm just trying to retie this because I lost that top point. Yeah, and I think maybe I'll just go ahead and, while I'm tying or wrapping with the sinew, I'm going to go ahead and scrunch the rest of this up and get it all tied up all at once here. That's the last thing that we needed to do. So with this here, we got 7 layers of fabric. So I'm just trying to kind of scrunch them up and just kind of keep everything just at a nice even layer here. Like I say, that way later when I put the dye on, it will soak into each of these creases and folds here evenly. If you scrunch it up too thick and fold one of these layers over top of another, you're basically creating an umbrella in there, and it will deflect the dye from soaking in. So anyway. And I do have a video on how I use the kite string, but basically when I want to run this around, I'm taking my finger here and holding this down flat to the table. So when I drag this around, I'm pushing down with the kite string here on the table, and it just slides right under nice and easy, so I don't have to try to pick the tapestry up. So if you just get in the habit of whenever you hold this down, just to hold that kite string in place, you can slide that around wherever you need it. Okay, I think we're about ready, and I think I'll go ahead and on the other one I pleat folded this up, so I think I will do the same thing to this one. You could just leave it lay out flat if you wanted to, or you could even tie more stars in here. I'm just going for a single star by folding right here, but you could certainly put another line up here and do 2 stars in there. So that's certainly a possibility, and you could just kind of play with this in lots of different ways. I'm just making sure I get everything wrapped up so it's going to all stay in place here. And then we're going to tie this off, and then we're going to do the Martha swap out here. Okay, it looks like I think sometimes this doesn't show the questions. They get caught up for whatever reason, but I opened that one up. So Julie can take note of that, and I can answer that later here. Okay. So I have this all tied up here. Like I say, this here is damp. I want to wait and let this dry. So we're going to set this aside for 48 hours and let it dry out. And ding ding, when you look at that, it's ready already. Time travel. It has its benefits. Okay, so now that this here is all dry, I'm going to start adding dye to it. So I'm going to put some gloves on. And then I think what I'm going to do, put one finger in each finger of the glove. I'm going to dye the star and my two highlight points here in yellow, and maybe put a little bit of orange highlights on it. And then the rest of this I think I'm going to dye up in green. 2 shades of green. Okay. And then the other thing I want to do is go ahead and just get a towel out to set this on. We're going to be dyeing just from the top side to start with on this. But eventually, if there is any soda ash left in here, this dry towel, dry clean towel, is going to pull whatever liquid that is in here as I slowly push it through from the top. And that's basically, when you start adding dye, that's what you're doing, is you're just pushing it down into the fabric one layer at a time, and any other liquid there will slowly kind of push out the bottom. And that's why I like to dye just from the top until I can actually see good color coming through onto the bottom side here. So I'm going to start out by giving our star and our things here a nice coat of yellow dye, and I'm going to also start back from on my point here. These ones here I'm not too worried about. If it spreads out a little bit, that's going to be fine with my highlights, but with my star I want to try to get that line as straight as I can. So I'm going to start back. So my line here, where I folded it and tied it, is right there, and I'm going to dye back here. So I'm going to dye from here down and leave a little bit of a white gap, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And that way that's going to allow the dye on both sides to kind of spread a little bit before they actually touch and meet in the middle. And then later, if I need to, then I can add a little bit more dye to those areas. So that's just another handy tip when you're laying colors down. Granted, I'm using green and yellow, so I'm not worried about them blending. Right now, I'm just worried about having just a nice crisp line there for my star. So starting and leaving a white gap is just one way to do that. And then you can slowly adjust that later on. So I'm just going to put a nice coat on here, and then we're going to move on to the other and then come back, and it'll just be a matter of just continuing coming back and adding more dye to these sections, and just let it slowly soak all the way in. So at that point, I think I will start answering some questions. Oh, and this here is soaking in pretty good, but every now and then when I'm dyeing something dry, the dye wants to roll off rather than soak in. And if you have that occasion happen, it's nice to have some soda ash in a spray bottle so that you can just lightly kind of mist it. If you just get like the top of the fabric wet, then it just makes the dye easier to soak in. But it doesn't seem to be having an issue right now, so I didn't bother to wet mine down. Okay, so once I get my yellow on, then I'm going to go ahead and start putting my green dye on here and just kind of let everything start soaking in all at the same time. And this here is bright green. It's a color that I mix up myself. I have purchased it in the past, but one time I was out of it and I needed more. Somebody ordered something with bright green, so I made it myself, and then I liked my shade really nicely. I wasn't able to compare it exactly to the other bright green, but I like the fact that I can adjust this. So basically what I start with is 3/4 of a bottle of lemon yellow, and then I top it off with 1/4 of turquoise. But you can also mix this right from powdered dye. So powdered dye, I'm using 3 parts lemon yellow, 1 part turquoise, and that makes this bright green. And then if I add more yellow to it, then it gives me more of a limey green color. And if I add more turquoise, then it darkens the green up. So that's just a nice thing to be able to adjust that depending on what color of green you want. Okay, so once we get going here, I'm going to start answering some questions. It looks like Julie brought some questions. Let's see, when dye mixing, what kind of mask, where can I get one, please? The kind of mask that is the best is one, it doesn't have to be this exact model, but it's one that has these side filters. I believe it's N95 is the rating of this. I don't see the numbers. Anyways, I know right now these masks are difficult to find. I haven't searched for one recently, but last month I tried searching for one for somebody and I just couldn't find one. But the main thing, if you're working with the powdered dyes, is to wear a mask of some sort. Even if you wear just one of the cotton cloth masks or something, wear something until you can find one of the good ones. But then the other thing is make sure that you're working in a well ventilated space, and try not to pour, when you're scooping the dye up. I usually try to tip it down into the cup as much as possible rather than just giving it a big old swatch where it's going to hit down there and the dye is going to puff up. So I try to make sure that I scoop very gingerly. I'm not creating a bunch of powder and then I'm dumping it very carefully also. Whatever you can do to minimize how much dust is floating around is going to be good for you. And like I say, I found my mask on Amazon, but I found it many years ago. So, and I know right now they're just not available, or they might not be available. But if you do a search for dust mask, and N95 I believe is the rating, you could probably go onto Dharma's website and look up at their masks. They do have some dust masks listed that have the specs that you need. I don't know if they have any in stock either or not, but that would be another place to check, would be Dharma or the other dye houses. And the other ones that I have bought personally from is Custom Colors in North Carolina and Grateful Dyes in Colorado. And another one that I know about that I've heard several people say that's where they buy their dyes from is ProChem in Massachusetts. So you can look up all of those dye houses and see what kind of masks they have in stock, or if they have any in stock. They might not at this point, but you can at least check those out. And I think that's about all I have to say about the masks. It is good though to wear a mask of some sort. If you don't have a good one, wear something. So I'm going to go ahead and put another layer of dye on and just let it soak in. I don't see it spreading a whole lot right now, but eventually it's going to. In fact, I can probably use my bigger dye bottle to put more dye on. And it's just a matter of continuing to come back to these areas, and you can peek and look. Like I can see a spot of green here and here, so there's a couple of, and then a couple bits of yellow, but I want to see more color coming through, especially in all of the thicker areas of the tapestry. Those are the main areas that you want to check, is the thick areas. So let's see what else we got here. My thick black dye sometimes runs or bleeds during washing in the washer. Please help, or help please. If your black dye is running, how long did you let it batch for? Typically, when I am doing my thick black dye, if I'm doing dye painting with that, I guess that's another question, is if you were using it just on a regular tee or if you did dye painting. But if you did dye painting with it, you need to use the recipe, the first recipe, or at least add, sorry, let me back up. If you're doing dye painting, you need to make sure that you use urea in your thick dye mix. The first recipe I used urea in there. That's going to help keep things wet for longer. You don't want your dye painting, you put it on there and then have it dry up immediately, because your dye is not going to be active anymore. And then that would cause then that dye to just wash right off of your t-shirt. If it's the other thick black dye in the liquid form like this here that you're using for outlining and it's running, it may not have batched long enough. I like to let my dyes batch for 48 hours, and I use heat with them just to make sure that the dyes are setting up nicely and they have plenty of time to bond. So your thick black dye, if it's running, then it's not been set properly. Also, you need to make sure that you rinse your dyes in cold water in the sink before you put them right into the wash. It's just going to help get rid of some of that excess dye before they go into the machine. So, but other than that, I'm not sure what else I can help you with the thick black dye. It does take a little bit of working, getting used to the thick black dye, because it doesn't soak in like regular dyes. If I'm doing an outline, I'll usually put my black dye on and I use my cuticle pusher to press the dye down into the t-shirt or the tapestry. Okay, I can see my green dye is starting to get over closer to that line, so I'm adding some of my yellow right next to that line also, just to make sure that they're both keep competing for that dry fabric there in the middle. And I want the yellow to win, so I'm just going to keep adding more yellow in there to make sure that the yellow wins. And I might as well go ahead and touch this up just a little bit more. So basically I'm adding some more yellow dye into that white space there. Alright, let's go for some more green. I'm going to touch this green up just a little bit closer to my line here. Like I say, these are my highlight orbs, so I'm not too worried about them if they mix up a little bit. But this here is just touching that up just a little bit, bringing the two spaces closer together and adding more into this. Here is the thickest part of the tapestry, so I'm just kind of really soaking it good. But then at some point you got to let the dye soak in. If you just keep adding it constantly, then that dye can kind of overflow. If it can't soak in fast enough, then it's going to spread sideways, and that's when you get more of your colors mixing and blending. It's because you've added them too fast. So on thick stuff like this here, you need to let the dye have time to soak down in before you add more of it, or it's just going to turn into one big puddle. So looks like I'm getting really good dye saturation in my green. I just need to add a little bit more of my yellow and green right up next to my line and right up next to this one. And then just a couple more areas there. But you can see that the dye saturation, let me turn that a little bit, is looking pretty good there. So we'll be ready to flip this over soon. Okay, let's answer another question. After initial washout in the sink, do you wash in hot water and washer with Dawn? After I finish doing the rinse in the sink, I start out by rinsing it while it's still tied up, and I rinse in cold water in the sink. And what that does is remove the soda ash. Since the soda ash is what activates these dyes, we don't want extra soda ash floating around when we start releasing more of the dyes that are in here. So the cold water is basically going to rinse away the soda ash and just whatever loose dyes happen to be right on the surface. But once you turn the water up to warm, then that's going to encourage more of the dyes to come out. So that's why you want to do your initial rinse in cold before you get extra dye coming out when you're rinsing the soda ash out. Or you might end up activating those dyes as they're running through your tapestry or your t-shirt. You're going to activate it with that extra soda ash, and then they might start bonding right in place, which that is one of the things that can cause a muddy looking tie-dye, is having the dyes start mixing and blending right there while you're doing your actual washing. So I rinse in cold water to start with, and then I turn it up to warm as I open and untie it, and I continue to rinse until the water starts looking sort of clear. It doesn't have to be like completely crystal clear. As soon as it starts looking kind of opaque where I can kind of see through it nicely, then I go ahead and put it in the washer. And I already have the washer pre-filled halfway with hot water and Synthropol. Although Blue Dawn is another pH neutral soap, and I know a lot of dyers use that. I've just always used Synthropol, so that's just what I use. But the Blue Dawn has worked for many, many other dyers, so if that's your choice, then I say yes. But the Synthropol, the Blue Dawn are going to be two nice soaps. A lot of other laundry detergents out there, they already have soda ash in them. So that's another thing. If you're using regular detergent to wash your tie-dyes with in the initial washing, then you're taking a chance of, depending on how much soda ash is in your laundry detergent, you're risking having your dyes become active again and do back staining. So you want to make sure you're using a pH neutral soap. Let's see, did I answer everything? Question? Yes, I did. So, and I do have a video on my washout process, so if you just look up washing tie-dye on my channel, you should find something there. Okay, well, I'm seeing good color all the way along everywhere here, so I can now flip this over. Pretty confident that I just need to apply one coat of dye to finish out this little bottom layer here. And then this one here is going to be good to batch for 48 hours. Because once you got the dye all the way through from one side, you don't need to put a whole bunch on this side here. If you do, that's where you're going to risk creating a puddle in there. So I'm just dyeing basically the rest of this fabric here on the bottom. I'm not trying to get it to soak in too far. So this here is just a quick touch-up. And then it's time to let this batch. Okay, and it looks like, oh. Nope, I think I already answered those questions.
There's not many questions today.
Okay, Julie says you guys don't have many questions. We're at the point here where I can answer questions while I finish dyeing this, but then we're also going to move into the auction and then the Q&A portion. So if you have questions for me that you would like answered, then go ahead and get them in the chat box now, and please put them in all caps so that Julie knows that you're asking the question of me and not just of the chat room in general.
This was a little vague. I haven't seen any clarification on it.
Let's see, how do you fold your tops? You kind of have your own way of folding. I'm not quite sure. I have lots of different videos on folding them. Is there a particular design that you're looking for folding? I guess I don't quite understand. How do you fold your tops? If you're meaning like how do I center a t-shirt, then that's something. I do have a couple videos on that, but I tuck one sleeve into the other sleeve and I line those hems and seams up over there and shake it out, and that usually will center it, and then that way I have the top, the front and the back separate from each other. But you'll need to clarify a little more information on that question, and then I'll see what I can do about answering it. And what type of large bottles do you use? These ones that I have here, this is a 16-ounce bottle, and then I also have my 32-ounce bottles that I mix in, and both of these came from Dharma. If you just look up bottles on their site, they have different sizes. They also have the 8-ounce bottles. And then if you like the little bottles here with the little fine tips there, they're 4-ounce bottles. And those ones I buy on Amazon. And I think I even have a link to those handy here. Somewhere. Okay, well, I'm not seeing it right now. Anyways, yeah, I buy these on Amazon, and I can put a link in here later. But these other ones, I just bought those from Dharma, and they've worked great for me. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'm going to put just one more quick squirt on here. I can see it just looked a little bit pale. That's one indication sometimes that you need to add a little bit more dye. If you put it on and then it kind of soaks in and looks a little bit pale, then that might be an indication that it's soaked in just below that layer. So sometimes I'll just add just a little bit more. But there's our 7-pointed star, and I'm going to go ahead and set this aside to batch for 48 hours. Alright, let me get these off of here. We'll clean this up, and then I'm going to break out the tapestry for auction. Anybody's interested in that? We got the backwards spiral from last week.
You get both of these here?
Yes, I did. And then if you get your guys' questions in, Julie will be writing those down and bringing them up to me. And I will answer questions while we do the auction. Just gotta clean everything up here. This off, and then I'll show you the tapestry. So we got the backward spiral that I did on last week's show. So there is a picture. Let me see if I can get that up. If you wanted to go over and find that, where you can look at the whole thing. It's the album is linked. The second one in this link that I just put up there, the launch links. If you click on that, that'll open up a list of all of my different links that I have on the internet. from Facebook to Instagram to YouTube and PayPal and whatever else. I got lots of links on there. But the second link on there is the link to the album where these photos are. So if you want to see the whole tapestry, you can click on that link. Yeah, I guess I just got a little bit lost in my explanation. Yeah, click on that link and you can see the whole picture. But I'll try and show as much of it on here as I can. So here's the backward spiral. I call it that because I was twisting it one direction, this way here, and then I got to a certain point and then I twisted it back the other direction. So that caused my spiral to come out this way here and then turn around and go the opposite direction. So it's just I call it backward spiral because it turns around and goes backwards. So anyways, this one here is up for bidding. So you guys can place your bid. If you want to bid on this, you just place your bids in the chat box there. And we'll keep this open. So let's see here. Let's see. Saucy Mare wants to know if Julie's leg is better. I don't remember if I told you guys last week. She had her appointment. She went into the orthopedic doc, and they, upon closer examination, and I think just because that's what they look for, they said that they didn't actually see a break in the bone. It must have been just a little bit of a shadow that was being cast on the x-ray. So she started out thinking she had a sprain, and then she went to the urgent care and they took the x-rays, and just at an examination they said that she had a broken leg. So that's when she went to the orthopedic doc, and then he looked at it closer and said that nope, it was just a sprain. Let's see, we got a $35 start from Gwen. Thank you, Gwen. So then she took her out of the boot and put her just in the little leg brace. And she wears that, I think, sometimes around the house, but she wears it if she goes out in town. So she's doing much better with her leg now than what she was last week. So she's very grateful for that, and also grateful for all the love and support you guys sent. We got all kinds of wishes from everybody for Julie to get better. So who knows, maybe you guys healed her, maybe she had a broken leg and you guys healed it before she went to the doctor again. So anyways, let's see what kind of questions we got here. My mandalas always come out looking more like bullseyes than points. Can you give tips to fix this? Yes, to get more points. Okay, let's see. We got a $40 bid from Tie-Dye Dawn. Thank you, Dawn. Well, let me just fold this up here. So when you're folding your tapestry up, I'm just going to do this quickly. So we're doing our airplane folds. Like I say, I'm not trying to be neat on this here. I just wanted to quickly fold this up so I could show you how to get your points going out there better. Okay, so now you said that you were getting more of a bullseye than points on your stars. So really what that depends on is how steep of an angle you tie your lines on. So, and I'll even do a visual. So if you tie your lines kind of almost straight across or just a little slight angle there, so I'll even just do a little bit of an angle just to show you. So consider that dyed there. So when we open this up, here's my little tiny points, but it does look more circular than like a star. But if we cut on the other line, let's see if I can fold this back up. Okay, so now this one here is a steeper line. So the steeper your line, then the more points that you get on there. So when I open this up, now you can see that I have more points on there. Okay, so that's the difference. If you go too shallow on your lines here, then you end up with more of a circular shape. Like I say, sometimes there might be just if you went on a little bit of an angle, you might have a little bit of a point there. But if you want a big point, then you just need to draw up at a bigger angle. So that's what we did also on our 7-pointed star. So I drew a line at 20 degrees, which is going to give me a 40-degree point on there. But if I had gone more like this here across, then we would have a more shallow 7-pointed star here. And if you go straight across, then you just get a circle. So that will help fix your mandalas if you just, and like I say, it might take a matter of folding those rather than just trying to pull your string tight. Kind of start your creases in there along those steeper lines. Okay, let me see if I missed any bids here. Okay, so we still have a $40 bid from Tie-Dye and Dawn. Tie-Dye and Dawn. Okay, I think that's how you say it. Let's see. And I don't see any other bids. So, okay. Well, we'll leave this open for just a few more minutes here in case anybody wants to get a bid in on the backwards spiral tapestry. So, and let's see if, oh, we got more questions right here. Do the needle tip bottles handle the thickened dye well? Yes. The bottle that I use is one of my old ones here, but it has about the same, it has the same size hole at the end, and this is the one that I always use for my thickened dye. So these ones here should work for that also. It's really just about the size of the hole. And the main thing when you're doing the thickened dye is to get all of that sodium alginate dissolved completely. If you're using the stuff from Amazon, it's already kind of a fine powder, but when you put it into the water, that fine powder can swell up and it can still give you kind of a gritty feel to it. Let's see. Okay, I see Saucy said 40, but if you're placing a bid, we already have a $40 bid from Tie-Dye and Dawn. So if you want to place a bid, you'll need to go at least to 45. Oh yeah, okay, so when I'm mixing my thickened dye up, I always dip my finger into the, well actually just the water. I don't dip it into the dye. When I'm mixing just the thick water, I dip my finger in and I kind of rub it between my fingers. It should be completely smooth. If you feel any grittiness, any lumps in there, then you need to blend it some more. And it's best to blend it with the hottest water that you can get. And then before I mix it, mix the powder in, I usually will let my thickened water cool for a while, because sometimes it will thicken up a little bit more once it's completely cool. And so rather than mix your thick water and then make it right into thick dye, and then the next day you go to use it and it's way too thick on you, if you let your thick water sit overnight, and if you don't have overnight, you can stick it in the fridge for a couple hours to at least let it cool down to room temp, and then that way you can make sure of your consistency before you mix it in the thick dye. But the main thing is that you should not feel any grit. Rub it between your fingers and make sure there's no grit, no lumps, or you will have clogs, and clogs are no fun, especially if you get one that starts in there and then you apply a little bit more pressure and then it releases and then you get a big glob of dye. That's no fun, especially if you're doing a stitched design that you've worked a long time on. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying about the 40. You were talking about the thumbs. Yes. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so we have a high bid of $40. I'm going to close this out in just a couple minutes. So if anybody else wants to get in on the bidding for the backwards rainbow spiral, Now is the time because I'm going to close that bidding soon. Right now we have a high bid from Tie-Dye and Dawn at $40. Okay, so let's look at more questions. For a beginner, what amounts of dye to buy? How far will it go? Number of shades approximately, number of shirts approximately. I really don't know how to estimate that, but I know that they do have dye. They come in the 8-ounce size and the 2-ounce size. Of course, you're going to get 4 times more out of this, but this here is going to get you a lot. I use 5 to 6 teaspoons of dye to mix up 16 ounces. For most colors, Dharma calls for 4 teaspoons of dye, so I'm using extra. Okay, we got a $45 bid for the Tapestry, so I'm going to leave this open for a few more minutes now. Thank you, Gwen. So I use 5 to 6 teaspoons because I want my colors really dark. But a lot of people, they go with just 4 teaspoons, and that gives them great colors. So in the 2 ounces of dye, you're probably going to get, let's see, I would say at least 8. Okay, Tie-Dye and Dawn bid $50 for the Tapestry. Thank you, Dawn. I would say you get at least 8 of these bottles out of one of these, but you probably get more. We have a $60 bid from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. That's for the backwards rainbow spiral here. I'll open that all the way up. So I would say you get at least 8, but probably 10 or maybe even more out of one of these 2-ounce bottles here. When I'm recommending people buy and dye when they're first starting out, if they're starting out on a budget, the colors that I recommend you get is the primary colors, and in tie-dye that's fuchsia, lemon yellow, and turquoise. And from those, then you can mix your secondary. So you mix your fuchsia and yellow together, get your orange. Mix your fuchsia and turquoise together, get your purple. And mix your turquoise and lemon together to get green. And a good starting point for mixing the dyes is about half and half of each, and then you can adjust them. So like if you do half and half, you're going to get, you know, kind of a nice medium green. But if you add more blue to it, you're going to get a darker green. And if you add more yellow to it, you're going to get a brighter green. So I got 2 different shades of green here. So this one here has more turquoise in it. This one here has more lemon in it. So, and you can do that with all of your colors. You can take your turquoise and add just a little bit of fuchsia to it, and it's going to darken, make that a darker blue. You get about half and half, and you're going into a purple. So I recommend to new dyers to get the 2-ounce size, so where you can just kind of try it out. And looks like we got more bidding going on that I'm missing here. So Tie-Dye and Dawn bid 65, and then Matthew bid 70. So we'll go ahead and keep this open for a while longer. So this here is a nice size to get you started. If you think that you're going to be doing a lot of tie-dye, then you might want to go ahead and go for the 8-ounce size. These ones here, you're going to, of course, get 4 times the amount of dye. This is 8 ounces of dye. This is 2 ounces of dye. So you're going to get about 4 times the amount out of one of these here. But yeah, if you get just the 3 primary colors, and then usually I recommend getting at least 1 black. And each dye house has different blacks, so it depends on where you're getting from, which shade. But you can probably ask around people, but I know from Dharma, my favorite black would be the Raven Black, and my favorite black from Custom Colors is called Dark Black. But those 4 colors should at least get you started and have lots of dye to work with. Okay, just in case I didn't say it before, I'm not sure where, but it's $75 on the Tapestry from Tie-Dye and Dawn. That's for the backward spiral tapestry. And like I say, this here is on one of the Sunshine Joy tapestries. It's got the nice hemmed edge at the top and the bottom. And then on the sides, it's got the salvage edge, which is a nice, clean, finished edge there. It's got the loops for hanging in all four corners. And it measures about 54 inches by 56 inches. So, and right now, like I say, the top bid is at $75 for this backwards rainbow spiral. We'll leave that open for just another couple minutes in case somebody else wants to get in. Let me answer another question here. Oh, okay, and the other part of the question was how many shirts, and that's hard to really figure. I haven't paid attention to that too awful much. But I've seen other people guess that an 8-ounce bottle of dye will dye, an average size adult t-shirt. So it really depends on how big are the t-shirts. If you're dyeing a bunch of kids' shirts, then you might be able to get 2 out of one of these bottles here. But if you're dyeing a 4X t-shirt, then it might take 2 of these to dye. So if you're getting 8 to 10 bottles of this out of there, then if 8 ounces is going to dye an average size, then that's about 16 to 20 to 25 t-shirts that you might get out of one of these small tubs here. And like I say, if you bought all 3 primary colors and you're dyeing the rainbow on here, then that's going to increase that up also. Oh, and Felicia gave me a nice super chat. Thank you. You shine, Mr. Tie-Dye. Namaste. Oh, thank you. Much gratitude. Okay, let's see. We might close this bidding out. Tie-Dye and Dawn is the high bid right now at $75. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out in about a minute here. So if anybody else wants to get in on the bidding, now is the time. And then usually after if I could talk or form a thought, as far as paying, that's what I was trying to say. Paying for the tapestry to the winner, I'm going to put my launch links in here. And you can choose a couple different ways for paying. If you want me to send you an invoice, you can scroll down to the bottom of this list and you can send me your email address through either Facebook or my store email. Or if you want to just pay directly through my PayPal donation link, that's probably about the 5th link down in this link. And in the US, the shipping is $7 for priority mail. So whatever your total is, you'll just add $7 to it. And I do believe Dawn is still the high bid. We haven't had any new bids. So I think I'm going to close it out. We got Dawn at 75. So we're going to go going once at 75. Going twice at 75. Going 3 times at 75. Okay, sold to Dawn for 75. Congratulations. So Dawn, you are the winner of the rainbow backwards, or the tie-dye rainbow backwards spiral. You bid 75 with shipping. Your total comes to 82. So like I say, you have the choice of either sending me your email address through one of the messages, or you can just pay directly in my PayPal through the donation link. But if you click on the launch links, you can choose off of there whether you want to send them a message or just pay directly. So anyways, let's move that out of the way. Oops, let's not set it there. Okay, and let's see what we got for more questions here. Where do you get your fabrics for tapestries? I buy my tapestries already sewn. These ones here come from Sunshine Joy. Yeah, Sunshine Joy Tapestries. You can just click on sunshinejoy.com and you click on the Tapestries menu and scroll down to about the middle of that link. It says blank white Tapestries. And they usually have 2 or 3 or 4 different sizes in stock right now. Sometimes they will be out of stock and they say just pre-orders only. If you go ahead and place your order at that time, when they get their next batch in, then they will ship out. I've ordered twice from them during this shutdown time, and both times it was less than, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, and they had the Tapestries in stock, and they contacted me and they were on the way. So that's where I get mine. But you can also, if you want to buy fabric, I've bought fabric from Dharma, and I've also just gone into Joann's fabric and bought in there. But the main thing that you're looking for is natural fibers. Most times my tapestries are in cotton. A couple times I have done rayon. Rayon is a little bit more delicate when it's wet, so if you're getting rayon, you want to make sure you're careful when you're tying it up. But the cotton works great, and there is a dyer, Bo Dorsey, and I can't think of his business name. Quantum Dyes, I believe. Anyways, he's on Facebook, and he is a tie-dye artist, but he also makes his own tapestry blanks, and he does take orders and sell those. So you can look up Bo Dorsey on Facebook, and he could set you up with tapestries, and you could probably order special sizes. I know sometimes he does sales when he has a whole bunch of odd shaped ones, but he makes ones. I dyed some of them up, and they were, I think, organic cotton and a hemp blend, and they dyed up really nice. He hems all the edges, and he puts the little loops in the corners for hanging. So Quantum Lotus Dyes, thank you, that's the one. Yeah, so if you look up Quantum Lotus Dyes on Facebook, you'll find Bo on there. I tried a shadow spiral design, rainbow and the black on one side. The colors came out dark and muddy. Tips on how to get those vibrant colors. Is it possible that maybe there was too much black that was added and it soaked through to the other side? Usually what I like to do is I put my rainbow colors on first, and I put those on nice and heavy so that they kind of soak almost to the point where I can start seeing those colors soak through to the other side. And then I'll go ahead and flip that over, and then I just put just a quick coat of black on the other side. Another way that you can do that, if you don't want to take the chance that you're going to get too much black in there, is you can dye both sides, top and bottom, in your rainbow colors, and then you can take a foam brush, and I just usually squirt a little bit of dye on the table, and then I just paint that on there. And if you look up my, I think it was the week before last, where I did the 2 t-shirts. One of them was a rainbow scrunch, or midnight rainbow scrunch, and that's one where I dyed it in rainbow colors, and then I just painted on a little bit of dye, and I just used my regular dye. I didn't use the thick dye or anything, and you just paint it on, and I just paint just one layer on there, and then that way you have just a little bit of color with that. Oh, in fact, I got one of those. Hold on. Yeah, so this is the tee that I did the week before last. So I scrunched this up, like I say, dyed it nice and heavy in the rainbow colors, and then I used regular black dye, and I just lightly painted, and it just adds just that little bit of black dye on there. And with yours being a spiral, you could put it on just one side, and you'll have, you know, just the really thin line, or you could put it on both and you'll have extra black. But you could try it both ways and see which way you like it the best. But yes, if you're adding the black on with the liquid, you want to do it just minimally, unless you're wanting a dark tee. So there's my advice for fixing your midnight rainbow spiral. That's what I call them. Okay, let's see what else we got for questions. Is batching in the oven the same as in the microwave? Once you do it, you shouldn't cook in it again. I don't know. I haven't ever batched in my oven. I have batched in the microwave oven, but I do it in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag. As far as never using it to cook in again, I don't know about that. I know there's different things about the chemicals and the stuff that come off in the steam. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, so I don't want to make a recommendation on that either way. But batching in the oven and the microwave, that there are two different ways. One, you're adding that extra dry heat. You want to be cautious that you don't dry the t-shirt out completely because in the regular oven, because if the dye is dry, then it's no longer bonding with the t-shirt. It has to be wet to actually bond. And in the microwave, like I say, you're creating that steam in there, so that's staying wet. But you also want to make sure that if you're dyeing or batching it in the microwave, that it's not one that there's any chance that there's a dry spot in there. So meaning if you tie something up, let it dry out and then dye it, there's still a possibility that there might be a dry spot in that t-shirt. And if you put that in the microwave and heat it up, it's possible that that one spot of dry fabric is going to smolder in there and then possibly leave a little scorch mark, or I've even heard of people having a hole burnt in it because they had a dry spot. So there are ins and outs of how you batch your stuff. So certainly I know people batch in the microwave, people batch in the oven. My preferred method is to batch in one of these tubs. And yes, it does take longer, but I batch in this tub for 48 hours. I have my t-shirts on a rack in here, and then I put a lid on this and I set this out in the sun. Now, of course, the last 2 days we haven't had sun in Oregon because it's been so smoky. I can't even see the sun out there. Looks like Mars. Anyways, but in the winter time I can stack these tubs next to a heater vent. So that's about all I have. Like I say, I don't know the ins and outs of whether you should use your oven for cooking or not. I advise against it, but I don't know if that's just my own personal preference or not. But let's see. Oh, which link do I use for the store? Okay, Dawn. As far as the store link, it's just the message me. Let's see.
She's looking to make her payment, honey.
Yeah.
You can tell her the donation will go away.
Just a second, hon. I'm trying to email me through my store. If you want to send me your email address through my store, that's the second to bottom link on this list here, or you can message me through Facebook. Either one of those will be fine as far as sending me your email address. But if you want to just pay directly through my PayPal, you click on the MrTieDye donation link, and that's the 5th link down in that list. So you can either pay direct or you can send me your email address and I'll send you an invoice. Right, thank you. Okay.
One more.
It looks
Got
like,
all of these?
yep. And let's see. How hard is it to make a colored rainbow heart? The main thing with making the rainbow heart is to, I think, tie up the little, can't even talk. If you want the whole heart to be in rainbow colors, but you want them to be nice even strips, then trying to fold that up and keep the whole heart shape, what usually happens is the first two colors in the heart still have that heart shape, and then each one going in loses a little bit of that point. But yes, I would just tie up the heart and tie it off and then dye in sections, or you could dye going, fold something up here. Okay. So I'm just going to fold this up really quickly just to give you more of a visual. I know it's hard to see what I'm talking about when I'm just pointing at the table here. So if you're doing the rainbow heart, you're going to fold your heart up. Okay. So here is my tie for the heart. So if I tied this up right here and I put my colors on like this here, these first two rings are going to have this nice heart shape to them. After that, it's going to not have quite as much heart, but it's going to be in the different colors, kind of like a bullseye type heart. The other way that I would dye the heart up is dye my colors going down this way. So I would put my rainbow stripes coming all the way down, and then that's going to, when you open this up, it's going to have the lines kind of going into the heart this way here. So yeah, those would be the two ways that I would dye up the rainbow heart. If I was going to dye going perpendicular to the heart here, going this way, then I would probably use just the primary colors, because there's not much space there to try to lay all 6 colors in. But if you use the primary colors, then you can get the whole rainbow in going that way. But then, like I say, the other way is going down this way here. So I hope that answers your question about doing a rainbow heart. I did do a rainbow heart tapestry. Now that I think about it, I think that was one of my live videos here. No, I did rainbow circles. Okay, so I will copy this. So the actual video that I'm posting here is for rainbow circles, but then later I folded up a heart in this same manner, and I put the dyes on that same way and got the rainbow hearts. Maybe that's what you're specifically asking me about. My brain just didn't pick up on that. But anyway, so there's different ways of dyeing the rainbow heart, and like I say, the rainbow circles is the closest way to get to the rainbow hearts. I did have a tapestry up like that before. Can you do a galaxy tutorial? Yeah, that's on my list. I've done the galaxy, but really for me it was just kind of a scrunch, and then I did an ice dye, and I just kind of mixing all of my different darker blues and purples and like cobalt and some black to give me my space colors in there, and I usually like to put just a little bit of fuchsia in there. But yes, I can certainly add that. Well, it's on my list. I can kind of move it up on my list of videos that I'm going to make. I got several more that I want to get to, and every week seems to go by and I don't get to the videos, but I know I at least have another video queued up for Monday. I'm trying to get more of them edited, but I think that's about it. Let's see. Yes, thank you. That's how I wanted the colors from my heart. We'll send a picture when I'm done. Oh, awesome, Maria. I'm glad I was able to help. I thought we were getting a bonus tapestry. No, I was just trying to answer a question, and sometimes me drawing pictures, I can see what I'm talking about, drawing my finger in circles on the table here, but I know it doesn't translate quite the same way. I guess if I could project my brain into your brain, then maybe you would get that. Okay. Yes, I know you were talking about the heart demo. Oh, the sock video. Yes, I have that coming up. That's the next one that I'm going to start editing. So hopefully that one will be out next week or the week after. I don't know. I lose track of time too. Okay, I think that's it on the questions. I don't hear Julie coming down the hall with more questions for me, so I think we're gonna close out. Let's see, we got out of here in just under an hour and a half. Not too bad for doing a video, doing an auction, and let's see. Oh, we did a whole bunch of questions too. I'm still a little bit kind of just spaced out here. I'm on some more pain meds and stuff for my tooth, so let's see. You have something amazing called Trippy Rainbow. I would love to see. Trippy Rainbow. Oh, you mean the Trippy Ripple Rainbow? Is that what you're talking about? If you're talking about the Trippy Ripple Rainbow, then that's a design. The Ripple design is one that I learned from Josh Shep. So, okay, yes. Josh Shep is the artist that came up with that one, and it's a design that I couldn't figure out myself, so I purchased a tutorial from Josh, and he's on, his website is called Push Rainbows. And if it's not Push Rainbows, it's Pushing Rainbows, but I believe it's Push Rainbows. And he has his tutorial up for sale, and you can purchase it over there from him. But it's not one that I'll be doing, since I bought the tutorial from another artist. That was my way of supporting him, but also it was benefiting me because I got to learn how to do it and make some awesome tees. So anyway, oh, let's see, if you had a signature tie-dye, what would it be? A signature tie-dye. Well, one that I feel like I came up with that I had never seen before was the Quantum Scrunch. So I guess if I had to go with a signature dye, that's what I would call it. Let's see here. My signature dye. I'm getting the video up for that. But really, I've just kind of explored all of tie-dye. I loved just playing, sitting down and playing with something new. So there's my Quantum Scrunch. That's one that I hadn't seen anybody else do, so I named that one myself. There's a whole bunch of other designs out there that I've seen other people do, and I might give it my own name, but it doesn't mean that I invented it. This one here, the Quantum Scrunch, I will go ahead and take credit for inventing that one, just because I haven't seen anybody else do it, and there, I said so. No, anyways, other signature dyes, like I say, I just love to explore. I love to see other people have success, which is why I make these videos, so that you guys can have success also. But also, it's not a matter of just taking what I've done and repeating it. Sometimes it's taking what I've done and twisting it your own way, giving it your own tweak. So I try to kind of put it out there, some other possibilities of what you could do with these designs, and I hope that people are kind of exploring those, learning the basics of how to fold like the 7-point mandala, but then spicing it up by adding a couple more lines in, or doing, you know, something different here. You know, there's lots of ways that you can kind of play with the basis of my 7-point star here. Well, it's not mine, it's mine because I made it, but let's see. Oh, it looks like my mom's going. Thank you, Mom. Good to see you, and thank you for becoming an ultimate Mr. Tie-Dye fan. Much gratitude, much love, and we'll see you again soon. Anyways, I'm just rambling now. I probably should close off here. Let's see. You're an awesome teacher, Mr. Tie-Dye. Blessings. Thank you, Julie, for being such a... Oh, yes. Thank you, Julie. Okay, yes. Well, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Anyways, but yes, tomorrow I go get my tooth out. So I think I'm getting it out at around 12:30 or so. So maybe you guys send some love and light my way, and it will just go even smoother. But anyways, I love you guys. Peace, love, light, and laughter to all. And you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you again. Well, I'll wash this tapestry out either Friday or Saturday and do my usual reveal, and we'll just go from there. Thank you guys. Love you. Peace.